Imagine the year 9 AD. Deep in the misty forests of Germania, 3 elite Roman legions, tens of thousands of the empire's finest soldiers march confidently into what they believe is a routine campaign. But waiting in the shadows is not just an enemy army, but a masterful trap set by a traitor who knows Rome's every weakness. Rain pours down, turning the ground to mud. Trees loom like silent sentinels. And in a matter of days, the most powerful military force on Earth is utterly annihilated. No grand siege, no heroic last stand in a gleaming city. Just mud, blood, and the screams of dying men echoing through the wilderness. This wasn't just a battle, it was a humiliation that shattered Rome's dreams of endless conquest. Today, we dive into the story of why Rome, the unstoppable empire, failed to conquer Germania, and why, in the end, it might never have been worth the effort. At its zenith, the Roman Empire was a colossus that straddled the known world. It had crushed the mighty Carthaginian fleets in the Punic Wars, tamed the fierce Gauls under Julius Caesar, and extended its reach from the rainy isles of Britain to the sun-baked sands of Egypt. Roads crisscrossed continents, aqueducts defied gravity, and legions enforced Pax Romana, a peace bought with iron and blood. Yet, on the empire's northern frontier, beyond the Rhine River, lay Germania, a vast, untamed wilderness that defied Rome's grasp. Why did the Romans, masters of strategy and engineering, halt at the Rhine? Why did this land of scattered tribes and endless forests become the graveyard of Roman ambition? The answer isn't found in Roman decline or military inferiority. Instead, it lies in a perfect storm of Germanic resilience, unforgiving geography, economic barrenness, and one catastrophic defeat that scarred the Roman psyche forever. Join me as we unravel this tale of hubris, betrayal, and the limits of empire. To the refined citizens of Rome, Germania was the edge of the world, a barbaric frontier shrouded in mystery and menace. Ancient writers like Tacitus described it as a land of wild scenery, harsh climate, and uncultivated soil, inhabited by fierce warriors who lived in simple huts and worshipped pagan gods in sacred groves. There were no marble temples, no bustling forums, no grand amphitheaters. Instead, dense oak forests stretched for hundreds of miles, interspersed with treacherous swamps, raging rivers, and brutal winters that could freeze an army in its tracks. The Germanic tribes, groups like the Cherusci, Suebi, Chatti, and Marcomanni, were semi-nomadic, organized into loose confederations rather than unified kingdoms. They herded cattle, farmed small plots, and traded amber and furs, but their society revolved around warfare and honor. Rome's first serious encounters with these tribes began during Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul in the 50s BC. Caesar crossed the Rhine twice, in 55 and 53 BC, not to conquer, but to demonstrate Roman might and deter raids into Gaul. He built massive bridges, engineering marvels that awed the Germans, and ravaged a few villages before withdrawing. In his commentaries on the Gallic War, Caesar portrayed the Germans as tall, blue-eyed savages, braver than the Gauls but less civilized. They have no druids to preside over religious matters, he noted, contrasting them with the more structured Celtic societies. This set the stage for future Roman perceptions. Germania was a land to be tamed, a buffer zone to protect the rich provinces of Gaul. After Caesar's assassination and the ensuing civil wars, his adopted heir, Octavian, later Augustus, emerged as Rome's first emperor in 27 BC. Augustus dreamed of a boundless empire, and Germania seemed the next logical prize. Expansion promised glory, new taxes, slaves, and security against barbarian incursions. By 12 BC, Augustus dispatched his stepson Drusus to the Rhine frontier. Drusus, a brilliant commander, launched aggressive campaigns, subduing tribes like the Sugambri and building forts along the river. He pushed deep into Germanic territory, reaching as far as the Weser River. Roman legions, with their disciplined formations, heavy armor, and siege engines, initially overwhelmed the tribal warriors, who fought in loose bands with spears, axes, and shields. Drusus's efforts culminated in the establishment of Roman influence over much of western Germania. He even erected an altar to Augustus at Lugdunum, modern Lyon, to symbolize Roman dominance. But tragedy struck in 9 BC when Drusus fell from his horse and died from injuries, halting momentum. His brother Tiberius took over, continuing the push with campaigns that brought more tribes under nominal Roman control. By one ad, Rome had established a loose protectorate over Germania Magna, the vast region east of the Rhine. Forts like Haltern am See and Oberhausen were built, serving as bases for administration and taxation. Roman merchants followed the legions, introducing coins, wine, and luxury goods, while Germanic chieftains sent sons to Rome for education, fostering alliances, but also breeding resentment. Yet, these early successes masked underlying tensions. The tribes chafed under tribute demands and Roman interference in their customs. Augustus appointed governors like Publius Quinctilius Varus, a stern administrator known for harsh taxation in Syria, to oversee the region. Varus treated Germania like a conquered province, imposing Roman law and levies on a people unaccustomed to centralized authority. This set the stage for rebellion, as Germanic leaders like Arminius, educated in Rome and serving as a Roman auxiliary, began plotting in secret. Rome had met Germania, but the true clash was just beginning. Germania wasn't like the sun-drenched olive groves of Italy or the fertile wheat fields of Egypt. It was a logistical nightmare, a landscape that seemed designed to thwart invaders. Roman armies, accustomed to open battlefields where their phalanxes and catapults shone, found themselves mired in a world of impenetrable forests and quagmires. The Teutoburg Forest, for instance, was a dense thicket of oaks and beeches, with narrow paths that funneled troops into kill zones. Swamps like the Ems and Lippe river valleys could swallow wagons whole, while harsh winters brought snow and ice that halted campaigns for months. Geography played a starring role in Rome's struggles. The Rhine River, wide and swift, formed a natural barrier, but crossing it required pontoon bridges or ferries, vulnerable to ambushes. Once across, supply lines stretched thin over trackless terrain. Roman legions depended on vast logistics, grain from Gaul, weapons from Italy, and reinforcements from afar. But in Germania, there were no stone roads to speed carts, no granaries to stockpile food. Armies foraged, but the sparse population meant slim pickings. As historian Peter S. Wells notes in The Battle That Stopped Rome, the region's endless forests and forbidding swamps made sustained occupation prohibitively expensive. Economically, Germania offered little allure. Unlike Gaul with its vineyards and mines, or Britain with its tin, Germania was poor in resources. Tacitus, in his Germania, described the land as producing neither gold nor silver in abundance, with tribes relying on subsistence farming and herding. Amber from the Baltic was traded, but not in volumes to justify conquest. Roman expansion was often a business proposition. New provinces paid for themselves through taxes and tribute. But taxing scattered villages yielded paltry sums, while the cost of garrisons drained the treasury. As one source puts it, every mile conquered cost more than it returned. Weather compounded the misery. Torrential rains turned paths to mudslides, as seen in the Teutoburg disaster where storms hampered Roman maneuvers. Harsh climates eroded morale. Soldiers from warmer Mediterranean climes suffered frostbite and disease. Building infrastructure roads, forts, bridges was arduous in the boggy soil. Augustus's initial plans for a province called Germania Magna envisioned Roman-style cities, but the land resisted. Dio Walgem communes was a TTMPTS, unreliable urbanization, with forums and baths, but they were abandoned after defeats. In essence, Germania's geography and economy turned conquest into a quagmire. Rome could win battles, but holding the land meant bleeding resources endlessly. As modern analyses suggest, the region's backwardness, no cities, no central power denied Rome the quick victories it craved. This harsh reality foreshadowed the empire's northern limits. The Germanic tribes were not a monolithic enemy, but a mosaic of fiercely independent groups, united only by language and custom, and even then, loosely. Unlike the hierarchical Gauls with their druidic kings and oppida fortified towns, Germania lacked central authority. Tribes like the Cherusci, led by chieftains elected in times of war, formed temporary alliances against common threats but dissolved them just as quickly. This decentralized structure baffled Romans, who thrived on decapitating leadership. Capture a king and the war ends. But in Germania, there was no single head to sever. Tacitus's Germania paints a vivid picture, warriors bound by oaths of loyalty to chieftains fighting for glory rather than pay. They used guerrilla tactics, ambushes, hit, and run raids exploiting their knowledge of the terrain. Roman heavy infantry, clad in lorica segmentata and wielding pilum javelins, dominated open fields, but in forests, Germanic spearmen, framer and axemen struck from shadows. Tribes could melt into the woods, regroup, and strike again, wearing down invaders through attrition. Roman diplomacy faltered here too. Bribes worked temporarily. Some chieftains accepted Roman titles and subsidies, sending sons to Rome as hostages who often returned Romanized. Arminius Hermann in German law was one such, raised in Rome, granted citizenship and serving as an auxiliary officer. But this backfired spectacularly. Arminius used his Roman training to unite tribes against Varus, exploiting divisions Rome tried to sow. As sources note, tribes united only when threatened, then vanished back into the forests. Socially, Germanic society was egalitarian yet warlike. Free men bore arms, slaves tilled fields, and women like Thusnelda, Arminius's wife, inspired fighters. Honor codes demanded vengeance for slights, fueling endless resistance. Rome's attempts at civilizing, imposing taxes, laws, and conscription sparked revolts. The Marcomanni under Marbod formed a powerful confederation, rivaling Arminius and forcing Rome to negotiate rather than conquer. This tribal resilience denied Rome decisive victories. As historian Ludwig Schmidt describes, the Germans' war bands were less organized but highly effective in resistance. Fragmentation meant endless pacification campaigns, draining Roman will. Germania's people, not just its land, proved unconquerable on Roman terms. The climax of Rome's Germanic folly unfolded in September 9 AD, in the rain-soaked depths of the Teutoburg Forest. Publius Quinctilius Varus, a trusted ally of Augustus, governed the nascent province with an iron fist, imposing taxes and Roman justice on resentful tribes. Unbeknownst to him, Arminius, his supposed ally and advisor, plotted betrayal. Arminius, a Cherusci prince Romanized as Hermanus, had served in Roman auxiliaries, earning equestrian rank. He convinced Varus of a distant tribal uprising, luring him away from the Rhine with promises of easy suppression. Varus marched with 3 legions, Roman 17, Roman 18, Roman 19, 6 auxiliary cohorts, and 3 cavalry alii, about 15,000-20,000 men, plus camp followers. The column stretched miles, burdened by wagons and families. Arminius's warriors, perhaps 12,000-18,000 from Cherusci, Marsi, Chatti, Bructeri, and others, waited in ambush. The terrain was a narrow path hemmed by forest and bog, engineered with felled trees and earthen walls to channel the Romans. On the first day, as rain lashed down, Germans attacked the flanks with spears and arrows. Romans, strung out and unable to form testudo, tortoise formations, suffered heavy losses. Varus pressed on, hoping to reach open ground. Day 2 brought more ambushes. Cavalry deserted, auxiliaries faltered. By day 3, trapped near Calchris Hill, the legions were slaughtered in chaos. Varus, wounded, fell on his sword to avoid capture. Officers followed suit, survivors were sacrificed or enslaved. Only a handful escaped to alert the Rhine garrisons. The toll, nearly 20,000 dead. 3 eagles captured, symbols of Roman honor desecrated. Augustus, upon hearing, wailed, "Varus, give me back my legions." As Britannica details, the battle lasted 4 days, with minimal German losses. Arminius's victory, using Roman tactics against them, marked a turning point, halting expansion and forging Germanic unity. Militarily, Rome could recover, new legions were raised, the empire endured. But Teutoburg inflicted a wound on the Roman soul. The loss shattered the aura of invincibility. 3 legions erased in barbarian wilds challenged the gods' favor. Augustus, aged and paranoid, disbanded his Germanic bodyguard and mourned annually. As Suetonius records, he wandered his palace, unkempt, lamenting the disaster. Retaliation came under Tiberius and Germanicus. In 10-11 AD, Tiberius stabilized the Rhine, preventing invasion. Germanicus's campaigns 14-16 AD were punitive. He ravaged tribes, recovered 2 eagles, and won battles like Idistaviso, where Arminius's coalition crumbled. Yet these were raids, not conquests. Tiberius recalled Germanicus in 16 AD, deeming further efforts wasteful. As Tacitus notes, Tiberius favored diplomacy, exacerbating tribal divisions. Psychologically, Germania became a taboo, a land of ghosts and defeat. Emperors like Caligula feigned invasions for show, but none committed to occupation. The Rhine-Danube limes fortified border rose, a defensive wall symbolizing retreat. Teutoburg taught Rome its limits, shifting from expansion to consolidation. The uncomfortable truth, Germania wasn't worth the blood and treasure. Economically barren, geographically hostile, and tribally resistant, it offered no return on investment. No Alexandria or Carthage to loot, no Nile valleys to tax. As analyses confirm, the costs outweighed the benefits. Rome pragmatically focused on richer fronts like Dacia. Later emperors eyed Germania wistfully, Marcus Aurelius during Marcomannic Wars, but never conquered it fully. The divide shaped Europe, Latin West, Germanic North. Conclusion: Rome didn't fail from weakness, but wisdom recognizing when to stop. Germania's forests devoured legions, tribes defied subjugation, and the land yielded nothing but strife. It's a timeless lesson, even empires have limits. If this exploration of Rome's northern nightmare captivated you, hit subscribe for more dives into history's epic failures and triumphs. What frontier should we tackle next? Let me know in the comments. Until then, remember, sometimes the greatest victory is walking away.